Hi everyone, welcome to another lesson on bite-sized math made easy. Today we're going to learn about ordering fractions. This is quite similar to our previous lesson on comparing fractions. In that video, I showed you how to compare two fractions. In today's lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to compare more than two fractions and then arrange them in an ascending or descending order. When you say ascending, it means arranging the fractions from the smallest to the largest. And when you say descending, it means arranging the fractions from the largest to the smallest. So what we're going to do is when you compare fractions, we're going to use the same methods that we learned in lesson 3, comparing fractions. And in that video, I showed you 3 methods. If you need to refresh, it'd be good if you can go back and play that video again. But when we go through the samples, we'll apply the same methods, okay? So this is sample problem number 1. We're supposed to arrange these fractions in an ascending order, okay? That means from the smallest to the largest. Okay, as we can see here, there's one similarity between all these fractions, right? The denominators are the same, okay? So what we have to do is just arrange them by looking at the numerator, the values of the numerators. The smallest one is 2, right? So this would be in an ascending order, the smallest, 2 over 11, followed by the next one will be 3 over 11, the next one would be 4 over 11, followed by 7 over 11, and finally 9 over 11. Pretty easy. Okay, sample problem number 2. When we look at these fractions, we can see that the numerators are all the same. They have the value of 1, right? As we learned in the last lesson, when the numerators are the same, we can determine the size, the relative size of the fractions by looking at the denominator. And we learned that the larger the denominator, the smaller the fractions are, okay, when the numerators are the same, all right? So in this case, we're going to again arrange them in an ascending order. That means from smallest to the largest, okay? So the largest denominator is 14. So this would be the smallest fraction, followed by 1 over 10, and then 1 over 8, followed by 1 over 5, and finally 1 over 3, which is the largest fraction. Okay, let's look at another problem. So this one says arrange the following fraction in a descending order, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the denominators. They're all different, right? But there is a relationship between these denominators. As you can see, they're all factors of 12, right? 12 can be divided by 12. 12 can be divided by 6. Can be divided by 3, it can be divided by 2, and 12 can also be divided by 4, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert them to equivalent fractions with a denominator of 12. Before we do the comparison, okay? I'm going to teach you all a tip on how to quickly convert fractions to equivalent fractions with a different denominator, in this case 12. Okay, so what we're going to do to find out what's the numerator, we take the denominator 12 and we divide it by the denominator, and then we multiply it with the numerator. Okay, let's do that. So 12 divided by 6, you get 2, and then you take 2, you multiply it with 5, so you get 10. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for 2 over 3. 12 divide by 3 and then multiply with 2. 12 divide by 3, you get 4, multiply with 2, you get 8. Okay, and then 12 is the same, so just write the answer there, 5. 12 divide by 2 and then you multiply with 1. 12 divide by 2, you get 6, multiply with 1, you get 6, and then 12 divide by 4, you get 3, you multiply with 3, you get 9. See, that's a quick way to create equivalent fractions, right? Okay, now we can compare easily because all the denominators are the same, and we're going to arrange them in descending order. That means from the largest to the smallest. Okay, so the answers, we have to look at the numerator. So the largest numerator is 10. That means the largest fraction is 5 over 6. Okay, the second largest would be 9 over 12. That means the next largest fraction is 3 over 4. Okay, and followed by 8, that's 2 over 3. And then 6 over 12, that's 1 over 2. And finally, the smallest is 5 over 12. So 5 over 12. Okay, so that's how we solve problems when the denominators are different. Or in other words, we use method number 3 that we learned in lesson number 003. Okay, another problem. Again, the denominators are different. The numerators are different too. Okay, if I look at this, I can see half here. 5 over 10 is half. And we look at these two fractions. They are smaller than half. Okay, because 5, the halfway mark is 2.5, and 1 is smaller than 2.5. 7, the halfway mark is 3.5, and 3 is smaller than 3.5. That means both these fractions are less than half. And then we got these two fractions, 5 over 6 and 7 over 8. As you can see, both these fractions are larger than half because the halfway point for 6 is 3 and 5 is larger than 3. The halfway mark for 8 is 4 and 7 is larger than 4. That means both these fractions are larger than half, right? So if we are going to arrange them in a descending order, that means we know the middle point is half, right? So we're going to write that first, 5 over 10. So you're going to have two fractions on this side, the smaller than half, and these two fractions which are larger than half are going to be this side, but we don't know which is the larger between the two, right? So we're going to create equivalent fractions. Okay, so the easiest way, as I told you in the last lesson, is to get an equal denominator. All you have to do is multiply 6 and 8. 6 times 8 is 48. Okay, so this will be the denominator for the equivalent fractions. So similar method that we learned just now to get the equivalent fraction, 48 divide by 6 multiply with 5. So 48 divided by 6, 8 multiply with 5, you get 40. 48 divided by 8, and then you multiply with 7. 48 divided by 8, you get 6. Multiply with 7, you get 42. So we can see that 42 over 48 is larger than 40 over 48, or in other words, 7 over 8 is larger than 5 over 6. So the largest fraction is 7 over 8, followed by 5 over 6, and then 5 over 10. Okay, we're going to compare these two fractions in the similar way. Okay, so the denominator again will be, for the equivalent fractions, will be 5 times 7, right? So it's, let me write it here, 35 and 35. Okay, so 35 divide by 5, multiply with 1. 35 divided by 5, 7, multiply 1, you get 7. And then 35 divided by 7, and then multiply with 3. 35 divided by 7, you get 5. Multiply by 3, you get 15, right? So we can see 15 over 35 is larger than 7 over 35. That means the next larger fraction is 15 over 35. That's 3 over 7. And the smallest fraction is 1 over 5. Okay, so that's the answer, right? This is the answer. Okay, I got another method on comparing fractions. I'll call that method number 4. Before I go to that, let's look at the answers for the last worksheet. So worksheet 003. Okay, these are the answers for question number 1. The answers for questions 2 and 3. The answers for question number 4. And finally, the answers for question number 5. Okay, so we come to method number 4. Let's say we're going to compare two fractions. Say 4 over 6 and 7 over 8. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply 8 multiply with 4 and 6 multiply with 7. So 8 multiply with 4, you get 32. And 6 multiply with 7, you get 42, right? As you can see, you have a shape almost like a butterfly. So that's another name for this, the butterfly method, right? So to determine the larger fraction, all you have to do is compare these two numbers, compare these two products. Okay, so 32 is smaller than 42. That means 4 over 6, it's smaller than 7 over 8. Okay, so I would recommend this method if the questions does not ask you to show a working, because it doesn't really show your understanding of the math principle behind comparing fractions, like the methods 1, 2, and 3 that I showed in my last video. Okay, but it's a good method when workings are not required for a quiz, answers to a quiz, or for checking purposes, right? So if you're using methods 1, 2, and 3, you can use the butterfly method to check your answers whether you got it right. It's a quick way, all right? Okay, before we end the lesson, I got a worksheet for you, worksheet 004, which is based on today's lesson of ordering fractions. This is question number 1. This is question number 2. Question number 3. number 4, question number 5, and finally question number 6. That's my lesson today on ordering fractions. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Try the worksheet. If you have trouble answering the questions on the worksheet, I suggest you go back and watch the earlier videos, because all the questions are strictly based on what I've taught on fractions from lesson 001 to 004. Okay, all right, so that's it. I'll see y'all in my next video. Take care and goodbye.